Hey there, good afternoon and welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show. This is a show that is dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So today we're back at our series, The Great Prog War. This is day 3, battle number 2, featuring Todd Rundgren's Utopia from 1974 and Steve Hackett's Voyage of the Acolyte from 1975. The first thing to know about these two albums is, well, there's a couple things. First, I haven't had a lot of listening time with either of them. I've listened to Todd Rundgren's a couple times online, and this album I've listened to maybe 4 or 5 times. Today was the 5th time, I guess. They're very different. This one is a British kind of comes from a kind of classical prog rock scene that you would normally get from a band like Genesis or Yes or somebody like that. The Todd Rundgren one is very American progressive rock. It fits right in with Kansas. It fits right in with Journey and ELO and all the other bands that do that kind of progressive rock thing that they do in the States. So very different. I find Todd Rundgren's album, the instrumentation is off the charts here. So like you got some really solid guitar playing, some really good keyboards, excellent drumming, some excellent all-around soloing on the album, like just, typical American progressive rock band, like very, very frontal with the instrumentation, soloing especially. It's a good album. The track I like the most is the longest track, which I think is I'm guessing, I think it's around 28 minutes, or maybe it's 38 minutes. I think it's 28 though. It's called Icon. Some very in-depth soloing on this particular track. I tend not to be as much into the American progressive rock scene, mostly because they tend to come from more of a jazz background to the progressive rock as opposed to the British, who tend to come from more classical. And it's not saying that it doesn't happen opposite in both places, but it does. It tends to be that way. Todd Rundgren, of course, is a multi-instrumentalist himself. These songs were written by him and the other 3 members of Utopia. But yeah, really good, really solid stuff. I listened to them, and like I said, I like the song Icon, which is the last track on it. I liked it quite a bit. The other album, Voyage of the Acolyte, because I own it, I got to study it more. I like the album cover quite a bit. And the only thing is they wrote everything's in blue on blue, which is okay if you got good eyesight, but I don't. So anyways, the Voyage of the Acolyte also features Steve Hackett's brother John Hackett. He's on this, and Phil Collins and Mike Rutherford. So you've got, basically at this point in time, you've got 3/4 of the members of Genesis performing on this album. So hence the reason why a lot of people call this the Lost Genesis album. I think it's because you got a lot of Genesis flavor on here. You've got the 3 guys from Genesis on here. The album was released in 75 when Genesis didn't have any other albums. So, and it has a kind of a Genesis look to it and a bit of a feel to it as well. So a lot of people tend to call it that. And I don't really see it that way. It doesn't really strike me as a Genesis album. It does. Some of the songs do have that kind of Genesis sound to it, but you don't have a Peter Gabriel here. You don't have a Tony Banks here, and those guys were major influences on the band. However, Phil Collins does do some vocals on here, and I think other than the one track he did with Genesis, at this point in time he had done no other vocals that I know of. So he's and they're not, even though you can tell it's Phil Collins, but it just sounds very different from Trick of the Tail and Wind and the Wuthering, his vocals on that. So yeah, so pretty solid though. I like the tracks I like the best are the last 3, I believe, and the first one. The first one, Ace of Wands, I like that a lot. Stars of Sirius, that's a really good vocal track for him as well. I like the acoustic kind of classical bit that they do on the song Lovers. And then of course Shadows of the Hierophant. I hope I'm getting that right. That is the longest track. The first part of that track I like a lot, then it kind of gets a little bit draggy after that. But overall, I say the album is pretty strong. It's going in my playlist, so it doesn't get in there unless it's fairly strong. The Todd Rundgren album, of course, instrumentally is like really good. But overall, it does have. I don't really like the music as much on it as I do the instrumentation. Where on the Voyage of the Acolyte, I like the music a little bit more than the instrumentation, and that's a critical thing with me, I think. So if given a choice, I would have to go with Steve Hackett today, only because the music here feels more familiar to me and resonates more with me than the stuff on Todd Rundgren's album. But that's by no means to discredit Todd Rundgren's Utopia. It's a great album. But we're gonna pass the ball to Steve Hackett today, and he will move on to round number 2. So I hope you enjoyed this video today, and we'll come back for round 3 tomorrow. We have a couple more interesting combatants, so to speak, in the Great Prog War. And please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. Make your comments. Which album do you prefer? Have you listened to both albums? What is your opinion on both albums? All those kind of things are interesting to me. I'd like to hear people's opinion, because the thing with people's opinions too is if they give them and you go back and listen, you say, oh yeah, I see that. Because we all hear things differently, so I may have missed something that you didn't miss. Anyways, I hope you, like I said, I hope you liked this and enjoyed it. And please subscribe and make your comments. And we'll see you on day 3 with battle number 3. So take care.